Contributions to Division History from the Front Newspaper, Panzer Voran, Friday, November 26, 1943, by War Correspondent Gerhard Hauser. Copy sent in by Comrade H. Schwarzkopf. A Soldier Among Soldiers. The Brunswick, Hanoverian, and Saar Palatinate boys of the reinforced division, deployed on the wing of an army, had fought their way up to this bridgehead position, without the Bolsheviks pressing after them with superior forces and encircling them in the pincers of their armored formations. The battle had been raging for days, and for days the division had been the focal point of the defensive struggle, bloodily repelling the enemy on three fronts at the same time. Incessantly, the Soviets pushed on with new masses of infantry, whose cries were always silenced by the steadfast wall of our grenadiers. Enemy artillery drummed relentlessly. One by one, the Soviet tanks pushed their way into the lines where they had to be taken down in hand-to-hand combat, while tank destroyers and ground attack anti-aircraft batteries smashed the bulk of the enemy's heavy weapons well ahead of our lines. Our Stukas also inflicted hard blows on the enemy. In the course of that day, however, the conduct of the battle became more difficult from hour to hour. The Soviet attacks became extremely violent. The connection with one of our own armored divisions, which was deployed as an assault group and was supposed to open the way across the river and out of the encroaching pocket, could not be maintained because the units released for this purpose did not arrive in time. Enemy tanks pushed into the gap behind the attacking armored division. The enemy had already succeeded in breaking through 2 kilometers in front of the divisional command post with his tanks. Yesterday, the old Reck, Alte Reck, as the grenadiers call their general, had spoken to them with passionate words, so that even the last man felt addressed personally, and a light went through the eyes, burning with fatigue, dust, and gun smoke. The general drove to you in the midst of a barrage, with red collar lapels visible from afar, standing upright in his kubel, which was marked by many shrapnel, as if he were leading into a maneuver. And today, too, the commander was in front with his grenadiers. In the fiercest roar of battle, he rushed from regiment to regiment, cheering on men and officers to preserve. And if one or the other wanted to soften, then he grabbed him with rough robustness. Vorwärts, nach schneller, mag die Bolschewisten zur Sau. Forward, yes, faster, make a mess of the Bolsheviks. Tonight, however, the tongue on the scale swung alarmingly the wrong way. Should the Knights Cross holder of Dunkirk, who at the same time, at the head of Infantry Regiment 54, defeated the British and French, now bow before the Soviets? No, semper idem, always the same. A Recknagel stays true to himself and his soldiers. That same night, the divisional commander blew up the ring of Soviet armored units around his battle group, fought his way through the enemy lines with all his troops and all supply vehicles to the only passable bridge, and reunited with the corps. The commentary on the Wehrmacht report, in which the division was named, described this completely successful operation as a bold nocturnal feat. The division had casualties. However, their sacrifices were small compared to the heavy losses in men and material inflicted on the enemy. The direct contact with the troops, his temperamental, tireless attack, enabled the general to boost the morale of the troops, to revitalize their resistance, and to build up a new defensive front within, on which, in turn, the strongest tank attacks by the Soviets failed. A single example shows how hard the blows were that the division dealt. Within 2 hours, they destroyed 22 enemy tanks. Such successes were meant to raise the spirits of the troops, and thus the morale-fighting value of the division, so that even today, after months of defensive fighting, they are still completely fulfilling their new tasks. In recognition of his outstanding services, the Führer awarded Lieutenant General Recknagel the Oak Leaves of the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. As much as the general emphasizes the part that his grenadiers have in this high distinction, every grenadier has the feeling that this strong leadership character accounts almost exclusively for the strength of the division. And it is no coincidence that the soldiers call themselves Recknagels, with which their general has so often branded the Bolsheviks in the face. The vitality of this 51-year-old general, who is still young and fresh, is unusual. He is an enthusiastic horseman and swimmer, despite the 3 wounds he received as a lieutenant and first lieutenant in Infantry Regiment 83 during the First World War, despite the serious wound that shrapnel hit him at the beginning of the Eastern Campaign. What a miracle when you have healthy Hessian farmer blood in your veins. Inwardly, the general has remained the young lieutenant of the past, who affirms life and in hours of relaxation feels like a comrade among his officers and grenadiers. The general loves the decent spirit of the Federation Officer Corps. He has a sense for everything equestrian and chivalrous, but he is also receptive to everything modern. The way he manages to tackle officers and men shows the energy and clear purpose that a general demands of his followers in tough hours, but shows a clear human heart that only beats for his soldiers. When he demands the utmost from the troops, he is a master of care and a comrade among comrades. In hard and also happy hours, in addition to these tough orders, Recknagel is what the soldiers call themselves, and Recknagels are grumpy, but iron hard. So today, the oak leaves adorn a highly deserving general and troop commander. And it is not an empty word when one hears in his troop, Mit und für Recknagel gehen die Grenadiere durchs Feuer. The grenadiers go through fire with and for Recknagel.